I paid her rent for 14 months, bought her a motorbike, paid for her sister's surgery, and I was still the second man in her life. She said I was her only one. She said we were building a life. Then, one night, she invited me to dinner and introduced me to her husband. The Bangkok skyline stretched out below us like a circuit board of light and dreams. Nathaya pressed closer to me on the rooftop, her silk dress catching the warm evening breeze. "Gordon, thank you," she whispered, her fingers intertwining with mine, "for helping me get this place, for believing in me." I felt my chest swell with something I hadn't experienced in 3 years. Not since Martha died. Not since I thought love was something buried with my past. I thought I'd left those memories behind. But just a few days ago, I opened my inbox and found an email from a longtime viewer of this channel. He told me he'd been watching quietly for months, listening to these stories, and finally felt ready to send his own. As I read his words, my emotions shifted in waves. First came a tightness in my throat, that recognition of another man's pain. Then came a strange warmth, almost like comfort, knowing I wasn't the only one who had believed too much, given too much. And finally, there was the ache, the deep ache, because his story brought me right back to this night, to the rooftop, to the exact moment I realized what I had truly become in her life. That email reminded me why I keep showing up here, why I tell these stories no matter how raw they feel. To the man who sent it, thank you. And to all of you watching right now, wherever you're tuning in from, thank you for being here with me. Please, drop a comment below and let me know where you're listening from tonight. And if you've been here before, if you keep coming back video after video, you don't know how much that means to me. I want to give you a super thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and join the conversation. Because tonight, I'm opening a wound I thought had closed. Let me take you back to where it all started. "You don't have to thank me," I said, pulling her closer. "This is what people do when they care about each other." She turned to face me, those dark eyes reflecting the city lights below. I've never felt this safe before. Never had someone who sees me for who I really am. The kiss she gave me was soft, tentative, like she was afraid I might disappear, but I wasn't going anywhere. For the first time since losing Martha to cancer, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. "We're going to build something beautiful together," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. "Something real." I believed every word. How could I not? The way she looked at me made me feel like I was 25 again. Like I had purpose beyond delivering mail and counting the days until retirement. Like maybe losing Martha wasn't the end of my story after all. "I love you, Nathaya," I said into the Bangkok night. "I love you too, Gordon. More than you know." But as I held her there, watching the traffic flow like blood through the veins of this foreign city, something small nagged at the edge of my consciousness. The phone call she'd ignored earlier. The way she'd quickly turned her screen face down when I came back from the bathroom. I pushed the thought away. This was love. This was my second chance. And I wasn't going to let paranoia ruin it. 6 months earlier, I was a ghost, haunting my own life. The retirement party at the post office felt like a funeral. 43 years of sorting mail, and all I had to show for it was a pension and an empty house in Portland where Martha's coffee mug still sat in the sink. "You should travel," my daughter Jenny had said during one of our stilted phone calls. "Dad, you can't just sit there forever." So I bought a ticket to Bangkok. Not because I wanted adventure, but because I wanted to disappear somewhere nobody knew Gordon Peterson, the widower who couldn't figure out how to live without his wife. The taxi dropped me at a gleaming condo complex in Sukhumvit, and there she was. Nathaya stood in the marble lobby wearing a crisp white blouse and black skirt, her hair pulled back professionally. She extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Mr. Peterson, I'm Nathaya Suwan from Premier Bangkok Properties. Welcome to Thailand." Her English was careful but clear, touched with an accent that made even mundane words sound musical. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, suddenly aware of my wrinkled polo shirt and tourist sneakers. "Of course. I specialize in helping foreigners find homes here. I understand it can be overwhelming." As she led me through the model unit, pointing out features and explaining lease terms, I found myself watching her more than the apartment. She moved with quiet confidence, but there was something fragile underneath, a carefulness in how she chose her words. "This has a beautiful view of the city," she said, sliding open the balcony door. Do you have family back home, Mr. Peterson? The question caught me off guard. My wife passed away 2 years ago. My daughter lives in California. She has her own life. Nathaya's expression softened. I'm sorry for your loss. It must be difficult to start over. It is, but maybe that's what I need. A fresh start. I understand loneliness, she said quietly. Thailand can be healing if you let it. Something in her voice made me look closer. Behind the professional smile, I saw recognition. She knew what it felt like to be adrift. Would you like to see another property? She asked. Actually, I was wondering, would you like to get lunch? I mean, if that's appropriate. I don't know anyone here, and you seem kind? She finished with a small smile. Yes, I would like that. Over pad Thai and conversation that flowed easier than it had any right to. I learned that Nathaya was 34, had worked in real estate for 8 years, and carried herself with the poise of someone who'd had to be strong for others. My family depends on me, she said when I asked about her life. My sister, my parents. It's a lot of pressure sometimes. You're very responsible. That's admirable. In Thailand, family comes first. Always, but sometimes. She paused, stirring her iced tea. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to have someone take care of me instead. The vulnerability in that admission hit me like a physical thing. Here was this beautiful, accomplished woman who understood responsibility and sacrifice, who knew what it meant to put others first. Everyone deserves to be taken care of, I said. Thank you, Gordon. You're very kind. When she said my name, it sounded different, like she was testing how it felt in her mouth, like maybe I wasn't just another client anymore. The transition from client to whatever we were becoming felt natural as breathing. Nathaya would text me about properties, then suggest lunch afterward. Lunch became dinner. Dinner became long walks along the Chao Phraya River, talking about everything and nothing. I need to tell you something, she said one evening as we sat at a riverside restaurant. We'd been seeing each other for 2 months, though neither of us had defined what seeing each other meant. My sister Siraporn is in the hospital. She needs surgery for her gallbladder. The cost is. She looked down at her hands. 200,000 baht. About $6,000. That's a lot of money, I said carefully. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned it. It's not your problem. I'll figure something out. But the way she said it, with that quiet resignation I was beginning to recognize, made my chest tighten. What about insurance? She doesn't have good coverage. And I can't. My real estate business is slow right now. The economy. She trailed off, embarrassed. I thought about the money sitting in my checking account. My pension. The life insurance payout I'd barely touched because spending it felt like betraying Martha's memory. I can help, I heard myself say. No, Gordon. I couldn't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. $6,000 isn't going to break me, and your sister needs surgery. The relief that flooded her face was worth every penny. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'll pay you back. Every baht. I promise. We'll figure it out together. 3 weeks later, she needed help with her office rent. Her business partner had backed out of a deal, leaving her holding the lease on a space she couldn't afford alone. It's just until I can find another partner, she explained as we walked through the empty office. This location is perfect for my business, right in the heart of the financial district. If I lose it now, I'll lose everything I've built. The rent was $3,000 a month. Not insignificant. But when she turned to me with those eyes full of hope and desperation, what was I supposed to say? We're building something together, she said after I agreed to co-sign the lease. Your support means everything to me. This business will take care of both of us. Then came the motorbike. Her old one had broken down, and she needed reliable transportation to show properties. I hate asking for help again, she said, and I could see the shame eating at her. But without transportation, I can't work. And if I can't work, how much? I asked. The Yamaha was clean, red, and cost $2,000. When I handed over the cash at the dealership, she threw her arms around my neck right there in front of the salesman. You're amazing, Gordon. You're changing my life. Each time I helped, the gratitude felt genuine. Each time, she promised it would be the last. Each time, I told myself this was what people did when they loved each other. They supported each other's dreams. They built a future together. But late at night, alone in my condo, I sometimes wondered if I was being generous or just desperate not to lose the first woman who'd made me feel alive since Martha died. The changes started small. Nathaya's responses to my evening texts became delayed, then sporadic. "Sorry, phone died," became her standard explanation. Or, "working late with difficult client." I'd lie in bed staring at my phone, watching the blue check marks appear next to my messages with no reply. "Is everything okay?" I'd ask during our weekly dinners. "You seem distracted. Just stressed about work," she'd say, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "You know how it is. This business is demanding." But she wouldn't quite meet my eyes when she said it. The canceled dates began in month 8. "Rain is coming." She'd text an hour before we were supposed to meet. "Better to stay home tonight?" Or, "Sister needs me at hospital. Rain check?" I'd sit in the restaurant alone, nursing a beer and telling myself that family emergencies were legitimate reasons, that successful people had unpredictable schedules, that I was being needy and insecure. One Thursday night, I tried calling her around 9 p.m. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again 10 minutes later. Same thing. My chest started to tighten with a familiar anxiety I hadn't felt since Martha's final months, when every unanswered call meant she might be unconscious on the bathroom floor. I grabbed my keys and drove to her condo building. The security guard knew me by now, waved me through without question. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt like ascending to Judgment Day. I stood outside her door for 5 minutes, listening. Music. Voices. Laughter. Male laughter. I knocked. The sound stopped immediately. Footsteps. The security chain rattling. The door opened just wide enough for her face to appear. "Gordon? What are you doing here?" Behind her, I could see the glow of her television, a wine bottle on the coffee table, 2 glasses. I called. "You didn't answer." "I was worried." "I told you. My phone died. I was just watching movies with my neighbor. We're working on a property deal together." The neighbor. Right, the same neighbor who'd been helping her with business for the past month. The same neighbor she never introduced me to despite my hints. "Okay," I said, though nothing felt okay. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe." "I'm fine, Gordon." "Really? Can we talk tomorrow? I have an early morning." She kissed my cheek quickly, perfunctorily. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like finality. Driving back through Bangkok's neon-lit streets, I tried to push down the sick feeling in my stomach. She was allowed to have friends, business partners, a life outside of us. I was being paranoid, possessive, all the things Martha used to gently tease me about. But the 2 wine glasses, the way she'd positioned her body to block my view into the apartment, the male laughter that stopped the moment I knocked. I parked outside my building and sat in the car for 20 minutes, trying to convince myself I was imagining problems that didn't exist. That love required trust. That questioning every inconsistency would poison what we had. By the time I got to my apartment, I'd almost succeeded in believing my own reassurances. "I need to see you tonight." Nathaya's text came on a Tuesday afternoon. "Something important to discuss. Meet me at Sirocco Restaurant, 8 p.m. My heart started racing. In the 14 months we'd been together, she'd never sounded so formal, so serious. I spent 2 hours getting ready, convinced this was the night she'd suggest moving in together. Maybe even marriage. We'd talked about it in abstract terms, planning a future that felt more real every day. The restaurant was elegant, expensive, with a view of the river that sparkled like scattered diamonds. I arrived 10 minutes early and requested our usual corner table. She walked in at exactly 8, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled differently, professional, distant. "Hi," she said, kissing my cheek without warmth. "Thank you for coming." "Of course. You sounded serious. Is everything okay?" She sat across from me, hands folded on the white tablecloth. "Gordon, there's someone I want you to meet. Someone important to me." My pulse quickened. "Her parents, maybe? Her sister?" "Okay," I said. "I'd love to meet your family." She looked toward the entrance and raised her hand in a small wave. A Thai man approached our table. Tall, well-dressed, confident. He moved like someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. "Gordon," Nathaya said, her voice carefully neutral. "This is Thanakai, my husband." The words hit me like a physical blow. The restaurant sounds faded to white noise. My vision tunneled. "Husband." She said husband. "Gordon." Thanachai extended his hand with a polite smile. "Nathaya has told me about you. Thank you for being such a good friend to my wife." I stared at his hand, then at Nathaya, then back at his hand. Friend, wife. The words wouldn't process. What? "Please, sit down," Nathaya said to Thanachai, who settled into the chair beside her with casual familiarity. "Gordon, I know this is confusing. Let me explain." But I couldn't hear her over the sound of my own blood rushing in my ears. Husband. She had a husband. For 14 months, she'd had a husband. "We've been married for 6 years, she continued, her voice maddeningly calm. "But we live separately now. We're not romantic anymore. It's complicated. In Thailand, divorce is difficult, expensive. We maintain the legal marriage for business reasons, family reasons, but our lives are separate." I looked at this Thanachai, who was studying the menu like this was a normal dinner conversation. Like the revelation that had just shattered my world was merely an inconvenient detail. "You've been married," I said slowly, testing the words. "For 6 years. Yes. While we've been together. While I've been helping you. While you've been saying you love me. I do love you, Gordon. That hasn't changed." "But you're married to him." I pointed at Thanachai, who looked up from the wine list with mild interest. "It's not what you think," she said. "We haven't been intimate in 2 years. We barely speak. You're the one I'm building a life with." The waiter appeared beside our table, chipper and oblivious. "Good evening. Are you ready to order, or would you like more time with the menu?" All three of us stared at him in silence until he backed away with obvious discomfort. "Why now?" I finally asked. "Why are you telling me this now?" Nathaya glanced at Thanachai, some silent communication passing between them. "Because we need to make some changes. Business changes. And I wanted you to understand the situation before things get more complicated. Before things get more complicated. Like they weren't already complicated enough. Like finding out the woman you love has been married to another man for longer than you've known her wasn't the height of complication." I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I sat in my condo, replaying every conversation, every moment, every red flag I'd ignored or rationalized away. The phone calls she'd never take in front of me. The way she'd changed the subject whenever I brought up meeting her friends. Her refusal to stay overnight at my place more than once or twice a month. Family obligations, she'd always said. The business trips that came up suddenly, usually on weekends. The way she'd tense up whenever I suggested we spend a holiday together. "Thai families are very traditional," she'd explain. "It's complicated. Complicated." That word made sense now. I pulled out my laptop and opened my banking app. The transfers to her account stretched back 14 months in a neat, damning list. 6,000 for her sister's surgery, 3,000 for the first month's office rent, 3,000 for the second month, 3,000 for the third, 2,000 for the motorbike, 1,500 for emergency repairs to her office air conditioning, 800 for her mother's medication, 500 for her nephew's school fees, 2,000 for new office furniture, $42,000 in total. Not quite the 40,000 I'd told myself, but close enough to make me sick. My phone buzzed with a text from Carl, an expat I'd met at a bar in Thonglor. "Haven't seen you around lately. Beer this week?" I called him instead. "Carl, can I ask you something? About Thai women. About relationships." "Oh boy," he said immediately. "What happened?" "There's this woman I've been seeing. Turns out she's married." "Jesus, Gordon. How long?" 14 months. "Shit. And you just found out?" "She introduced me to her husband last night. At dinner." The silence stretched long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Gordon? You there?" "Yeah. How much money are we talking about?" "What do you mean? How much have you given her?" "Don't lie to me, and don't tell me it was just dinner money." I looked at the banking app still open on my screen. 42,000. Give or take. Jesus Christ. She needed help. Her sister's surgery, her business. Gordon, listen to me very carefully. She's a professional. This is what they do. They find lonely foreign men with money and milk them dry. The sister's surgery, the business problems, the sick mother, it's all scripted. That's not. She wouldn't. The husband probably knows everything. Hell, he might have helped plan it. You think you're the only one? You think you're special? But I was special. She'd told me so. She'd said I was different from other men, that I understood her in ways others didn't, that we were building something real together. Gordon, are you listening to me? She loves me, I said, though the words tasted like ash. She told me she loves me. I'm sure she did. Right after you transferred the money, I bet. He was wrong. He had to be wrong. But as I sat there holding the phone, staring at the evidence of my own stupidity spread across multiple browser tabs, I couldn't find a single argument that held water. The woman I'd fallen in love with had been someone else's wife the entire time. And I'd been too desperate, too grateful, too goddamn lonely to see what should have been obvious. I waited 3 days to message her. 3 days of pacing my apartment, writing angry texts I never sent, rehearsing conversations that would never happen. Finally, I kept it simple. We need to talk. Her response came back within minutes. Yes. Coffee? Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Café Mozu on Sukhumvit 31. I arrived early and chose a table in the back, away from the afternoon crowd of freelancers and tourists. She walked in precisely on time, wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt. No makeup. She looked younger, more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Hi, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Thank you for meeting me. I need to understand something, I said without preamble. Was any of it real? Any of what we had? She stirred sugar into her coffee with careful precision. My feelings for you were real, Gordon. Are real. I know you don't believe that now, but it's true. Your feelings. While you went home to your husband every night. I told you. We live separately. We have for 2 years. The marriage is just paper now, but it's still a marriage. You're still his wife. And I've been... What? The other man? The side piece who pays the bills? Her composure cracked slightly. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. When I met you, I thought you were just another client. But then you were so kind, so generous. You made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. So, you decided to take advantage of that. No. The sharpness in her voice made other customers look our way. She lowered her voice. I never meant to hurt you, but my life is complicated. I have responsibilities, obligations, things you don't understand. Then explain them to me, make me understand. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope, placed it on the table between us. These are receipts. For your sister's surgery, the office deposit, the motorbike registration, proof that the money went where I said it would. And this. She pulled out a folded document. Is the deed to a small condo in Hua Hin. It's worth about $15,000. I'm signing it over to you. I stared at the papers without touching them. You think this is about the money? Isn't it? I thought we were building a life together, Nathaya. I thought we were in love. I thought maybe, for the first time since my wife died, I'd found someone who cared about me for who I am, not what I can provide. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. I do care about you. More than you know. But not enough to leave him. Not enough to choose me. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You choose the person you want to be with, and you build a life with them. You don't hedge your bets. You don't keep one man as your husband and another as your... whatever I was. She reached across the table toward my hand, but I pulled back. Gordon, please. I never wanted it to end like this. How did you want it to end? With me finding out accidentally? With me dying and leaving you everything in my will? When exactly were you planning to tell me the truth? I don't know, she whispered. I hoped maybe someday things would change, that the Nachai and I could divorce, that we could be together properly. But you never asked me if that's what I wanted. You never gave me a choice. She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the tile floor. I have to go. The papers are yours if you want them. If not, she shrugged. I'm sorry, Gordon, for everything. I hope you find peace." She walked out without looking back, leaving me alone with an envelope full of receipts and the bitter taste of closure I wasn't ready for. I kept her contact information in my phone for 6 weeks, not because I planned to use it, but because deleting it felt like admitting defeat, like accepting that everything I'd believed about us had been a lie. Some mornings I'd wake up and reach for my phone, muscle memory making me want to text her good morning. Some evenings I'd pour myself a whiskey and scroll to her name, thumb hovering over the call button. But I never pressed it. The property documents she'd given me were real. I had a lawyer verify them. A small one-bedroom condo an hour south of Bangkok, worth about half of what I'd given her over 14 months. Not exactly a fair exchange, but better than nothing, better than being completely played. I moved to Chiang Mai on impulse. Bangkok had too many memories, too many places where I could see her ghost around every corner. The northern city was quieter, cooler, full of temples and mountains and other expats who'd come to Thailand looking for something they couldn't name. I found a small apartment near the old city and enrolled in a meditation class at Wat Suan Dock. The first step to wisdom is accepting what we cannot change, the monk told our small group of seekers and lost souls. The second step is changing what we can. I started cooking for myself properly for the first time since Martha died, learned to navigate the local markets, haggling in broken Thai for vegetables and fish. I bought a bicycle and rode it through the city's narrow streets, discovering coffee shops and bookstores and quiet corners where I could sit and think without drowning in self-pity. The anger faded first. The rage at being lied to, used, betrayed. It took about a month of daily meditation and long conversations with other expats who'd been through similar experiences. Carl visited once, and we talked for hours about the ways loneliness makes us vulnerable, desperate, willing to believe beautiful lies. The hurt took longer to heal. The feeling that I'd somehow failed both Martha's memory and my own future. That I'd been so desperate for connection I'd ignored every warning sign, but even that eventually softened into something more manageable. Regret, maybe. Sadness for what might have been if circumstances had been different, if she'd been single, if I'd been less naive, if love was ever as simple as we wanted it to be. One Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after that final coffee meeting, I was scrolling through my contacts looking for the number of a local mechanic. I saw her name, Nathaya Suwan. Without hesitation, without ceremony, I pressed delete. The phone asked if I was sure. I was sure. Her number disappeared from my phone, and with it, the last tangible connection to a love that had never really existed in the way I thought it had. I don't hate her anymore. That realization came to me during a particularly peaceful morning meditation, about 4 months after moving to Chiang Mai. Somewhere between the sound of temple bells and the smell of incense, I understood that hating Nathaya would be like hating a river for flowing downhill. She did what she thought she had to do to survive, to provide for her family, to navigate a complicated life in a complicated world. And I did what I thought I had to do to find love again, to fill the emptiness Martha's death had left behind, to feel needed and wanted and alive. Neither of us set out to hurt anyone. Neither of us planned for our needs to collide in such a destructive way. But they did, and the wreckage was real, and blaming her for being who she was wouldn't change any of it. She was never really mine. I see that now. She belonged to herself first, to her family second, to the obligations and expectations of her culture third, to her husband fourth, maybe. And to me? I was a comfortable illusion we both needed to believe in for a while. A fantasy that let her feel taken care of and let me feel useful. The money wasn't really about the money, though losing it stung. It was about what the money represented, my desperate need to be necessary to someone again. To matter in ways that went beyond delivering mail and paying bills and waiting for the phone to ring. Martha had needed me in the way that couples need each other after decades together. Completely. Unconsciously. Like breathing. Nathaya needed my financial support, my emotional availability, my willingness to believe in a version of her that didn't include a husband. Those are different kinds of need, and I confused one for the other. The meditation teacher talks about attachment as the root of suffering, about how we create pain by clinging to things that were never ours to begin with. People, relationships, ideas about how love should work. I spent 43 years married to Martha, thinking I understood love. But maybe what I understood was partnership, commitment. The daily choice to build something together with someone who'd chosen you back, completely and without reservation. What I felt for Nathaya was something else. Gratitude, maybe, for making me feel alive again. Desperation to recapture something I'd lost. The comfort of being needed, even if that need came with conditions I was too afraid to examine. She was never mine, and I was never really hers. We were two people using each other to fill different kinds of emptiness, and for 14 months, it worked well enough that we could call it love. But love doesn't usually come with hidden husbands and careful lies and money flowing in one direction. Love is messier than that. More honest, more willing to risk everything for the chance of something real. I hope she's happy. I hope Thanakai is good to her, or that she finds the courage to leave him if he isn't. I hope her sister recovered from her surgery and her business is thriving and her family is proud of how hard she works to take care of everyone. I hope she thinks of me sometimes, not with guilt or regret, but with the same bittersweet fondness I'm learning to feel for the whole beautiful, painful experience. She taught me something important about myself, even if she didn't mean to. She taught me that I'm still capable of opening my heart to another person, that Martha's death didn't end my capacity for connection, that loneliness doesn't have to be permanent, even if the solutions aren't always what we expect them to be. Next month, I'm flying back to Portland to visit Jenny and her kids. After that, who knows? Maybe I'll come back to Thailand or try somewhere else entirely. Maybe I'll even be brave enough to love someone again someday, though I'll be more careful about the difference between being needed and being loved. For now, I'm content to sit in this quiet apartment, watching the sun set over Chiang Mai's mountains, knowing that I survived losing love twice in one lifetime. That's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot.